I've got the absolute pleasure of introducing you all to Stephen Rule, aka Dr. Cymraeg. My favourite quote, if I may use, and I hope this one's yours, Stephen, is the best
Haha.
way to learn is to learn together. I really like that.
Oh, thank you very
So
much.
in today's session, we've got, like I said, we've got Stephen joining us, and he will be talking about his experiences and journey as a Welsh learner, a teacher, an author, and podcaster. I hope I'm not embarrassing you here, but
You most
um,
definitely are. Keep it coming though. It's doing wonders for the ego. It's great.
Some of you who's on Twitter might have sought his advice. I have, even though I've been speaking Welsh for a long time. Those mutations still get me every day. So with a following of 12,500, Stephen's asked daily questions, as I said, about the Welsh language and shares fantastic resources. And most importantly, is a source of encouragement. So today we are just going to do a very informal lunch and learn. If you want to join in, that's absolutely fine, but you're free to use the raise your hand button, or you can pop it into the chat. I'll be keeping an eye on that, but we'll be doing a nice Q&A at the end as well. You can ask questions in both Welsh and English. That's absolutely fine. And for colleagues who can't join us today, we're recording the session as well, so we'll share it afterwards. And maybe if I can persuade him to come back, we'll do another session in the year. So diolch yn
We'll have
fawr
to see how
iawn.
this one goes first, Laurie. I'm telling you, this could go either way.
We're a friendly bunch. So diolch yn fawr iawn, Stephen. I'll hand over to you for the time being, but I'm still here and I'm floating around. So
Well,
over
you
to
best
you.
stay there as well in case this all goes bottoms up, I suppose. Diolch. Wow, I'm just looking at the numbers of people coming in, and on top of the nerves that I'm currently feeling, it is so wonderful that you've taken the time to do this, and it's a work day for you. You just making that choice means a great deal to me, and I can assure you many others who don't even know you're doing it, but you're doing something wonderful. So diolch yn fawr. I was going to start with a croeso, but Laurie's covered that absolutely wonderfully for me, so I'll just cross that off on my notes here. There you go. And I thought that I better start with a little bit about myself and get to bore you a little bit with that. So what I'm kind of doing at the moment, I've got a sort of half screen with you lot on there, and all the numbers that continue to increase, which continues to scare me, and then also a bit of a sort of makeshift script on the side, so I don't have to do too much ad lib. I think that definitely be in the realms of boredom if I were to do that. So yes, a little bit about myself. I am from a non-Welsh speaking family. I went to a non-Welsh speaking school and was brought up in a non-Welsh speaking area. A few miles from the border up here in the northeast. And I don't think it was. I do remember being in school and thinking, well, why are you telling me that a chair is a cadair? Because I've always known it as a chair, and it's worked for me. And I don't really see why I need to have a second word for it that's just going to do the same job as I had originally. And I'll be honest, I wasn't massively fond of Welsh when I was in school. I remember the little textbooks that were different to the rest of our books, and I was sort of aware of what was happening, and I wasn't sure whether my naive, childish brain was sort of taking it in the way it should. And it probably wasn't until around year 8, so about 12, 13 years old, when I started to realize I was actually pretty good at it. And that's thanks to actually what I did learn in primary school, where ironically I wasn't a big fan of it really. I don't know whether this was the time that I fell in love with Welsh, but I do remember one particular time an occasion where a teacher was offering like a golden ticket, as I saw at the time, more of a golden ticket to get out of lessons next week. But the way she was pitching it was there was a jamboree, they called it, and it was essentially all local primary schools would come together and have a bit of a sing-song in Welsh. And they'd given an invitation to some students from high schools to come along. And our school had been given 3 places. And what my teacher said was she would pick the best 3 in the class, and they would get a golden ticket. 3 people, of which I was not one. In all my youthful naivety and all my youthful cheekiness, I thought I was doing well. And I hate myself for this, but I asked the teacher at the end, I said, am I not doing well? And I thought, how dare I? That's awful. However, I did ask, and I was told that that I was the first reserve. And I walked out with a smile on my face thinking, do you know what, that's okay. And then about 10 minutes later, I thought, I bet you she'd say the same thing to everyone else. And I was just sad that I wasn't going to miss double geography the week after. And it turned out that someone who I still call a friend actually couldn't make it to this jamboree thing, this childish jamboree that was going on. And believe it or not, the teacher approached me and said, would I like to go? And I don't know whether it was the fact that someone kept a promise to me, or I don't know what it was, but yeah, it always stuck with me that she was honest, and I went, and it was awful and childish, and I hated it. I still remember the songs from there; they're burnt into my mind. But and I'm now reliving them through my 2-year-old son, who we're raising in Welsh. So I now get to relive those from my childhood days. And yes, so I'm getting all those back again. But I don't think that was the moment. But I think it was one of those times where something to do with Welsh sort of, it backed me up. It did something for me, and it looked out for me, and it offered me something. And yeah, from then on, I never looked back. I found a home in something that made me unique. It made me feel a connection to my home. It made me feel like I was able to do something well. And that it accepted me, and that was really cool and really powerful for people of 12 and 13 years old, I'm certain. So I went on to do second language GCSE, second language A level. I then decided that I'd like to, I actually wanted to do, I really wanted to read history in the university actually, but I just felt at the point after A level that I wasn't fluent enough, and I just wanted to keep going. So I did a degree in Welsh. I'm so proud that I did. But I remember going to university, and even with my A level in second language, I could not understand a word. Now, I'm not here to bemoan the fundamentals of teaching Welsh and how we definitely spend far too much time on this hybrid creation of standard Welsh mashed with some snippets of lesser used dialects in there, which all the time leads people who have a genuine belief in wanting to learn Welsh, or a genuine sort of desire to learn Welsh, to be told then when they try and use it, that's not how I say it, that I don't speak like that, where have you learnt this? Which then inevitably leaves them feeling like they just want to give it up altogether. I've just realized I said I wasn't going to bemoan it, and I just did. But I digress. So yeah, I arrived in the university as nervous as I am now in front of you guys, and I essentially learnt 2 languages in university. I learnt this beautiful literary one that to which I'd never been exposed, where the language of the courses I was taking, and then a spoken one from the people around me, that they were speaking so much different language. So I'd learned 2 different languages to what I'd also learned through A level. And I knew from an early age that I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to teach Welsh. I wanted to be in English medium schools, just as I'd done myself, and I wanted to try and pass that on. And the two main things that I wanted to tackle that sort of created my philosophy as a teacher really were, I remember asking my friends who weren't as intrigued about Cymraeg as I was. I remember asking them, what is it? Why don't you love it as much as I do? And I wasn't bemoaning them. I was just sort of, I just sort of wanted to know. And I always heard, well, there's no point, and it's boring. It's not fun. So becoming a teacher, those are the 2 things I wanted to tackle more than anything. I wanted to show the wonders of acquiring another language, the skills that you learn in doing so, and I wanted to try and get people to have a laugh. I wanted people to enjoy things, to enjoy the language, and I sort of moved on to finding that my explanations of Welsh, going through being a teacher for all this time, were helping people outside of the school environment as well, which was really, really cool. Before I continue, I can see that the chat is blowing up, as the young people say. So what have we got, Laurie?
So Chris has said, welcome to my world, O-level and GCSEs in Welsh, wife and kids educated through Welsh, and they keep telling me that the Welsh I speak is too pure.
Too pure. Hey, we'll take that every day. Who was that, sorry?
It's Chris.
Chris, I've heard the same myself. I've heard this many a time, and do you know what? There are people, for better or worse, who still come out of education who feel the same sort of thing. So yeah, I'll probably get to sort of explaining some of the things around that in a bit, but I totally accept the point. Yeah.
And Joe's asked a question as well. Should we use slang or modern terms like please, or should we
Yeah.
say os gwelwch yn dda? Some people are more traditional. That's an interesting question.
That is a very interesting question. That sounds like something that needs to be sent over to that Dr. Cymraeg fella on Twitter. He can probably explain it for you. Yeah, I mean, either or. I, for better or worse, I say please a lot more than anything, and that's what I probably hear the most. But I don't know. I find os gwelwch yn dda is more something I feel like I'd write, and it depends on the audience as well. I think I'd probably use a bit of both into. I really. I'm not trying to claim that you're overthinking things. You're not. It's a wonderful question to ask yourself, but I think the fundamental of it is I wouldn't worry a great deal too much if I were you. But yeah, top question though. Yeah, get that Dr. Cymraeg fella involved. He'd answer that one for you. Are there any more, or shall I get on? Oh, we got some.
Emily Harvey said, I used os gwelwch yn dda a lot in school. Since leaving, I tend to use please a lot.
Yeah.
It varies. I totally agree. It varies.
That's
agree with
literally
you both.
the epitome of what I took 2 minutes to explain there. Yes. So Diolch, Emily, for that one. Yes. So yeah, back towards modern day then. It was sort of over lockdown. There was loads of people started learning Welsh. You guys in here, of which there are 55 of you now, and it's making me want to cry. You may have taken up the mantle of learning this wonderful language. And one thing I noticed was, because we all spent far too much time on Facebook in that time, I noticed these little groups popping up, and it was wonderful. Welsh people, Welsh learner groups and things like that. And people were asking these lovely questions about the language, and it was really cool to see people engaging with it so much. So obviously I jump in with my suggestions and trying to answer people's questions and stuff. But the thing that hit me the most was that, sort of, let's say there was a question asked, how would I express this? And then within minutes, there'd be about 20 people jumping in about how they'd say it and how they say it in their dialect, and how they were taught, but how they hear it in the. And sort of you'd flick back to see who'd originally posted the question, and a few days later they come back going, Diolch for the for what you've done there, but I think I'll just leave it. And it was just see people just. You could see them, even though it was on social media, they were just getting overwhelmed, and it hurt me big time, really. And all these people who were helping were doing so with wonderful intention and things like that. But it just sort of happened that just people were becoming very overwhelmed by it. So my ego got the better of me, and I thought I'd make a Twitter account that might be a sort of one-stop shop for learners who had questions. The reason I chose Twitter was because Twitter was the social media at the time that was ruining my mental health, I think, and just looking at all this politics and all this other stuff that I'd pretend that I knew about, and I was just getting angry, and I just thought, you know what, I need a way out of Twitter, but I love it too much. So that's why I chose Twitter. But yeah, so this little elitist part of me thought that it might be quite cool to become this self-aggrandized guru of Welsh, but as someone who's learnt the language myself, and seen how it's changed my life and changed the life of other people, and I've been teaching it to young people and adults for nearly 15 years now. I now speak Welsh at home with my wife and my cat and my 2-year-old son and all my wife's family, and I thought with all that I was in a decent enough position to help people out, having come through second language and, having immersed myself in all this sort of education I'd had in teaching and pedagogy and all this stuff. I thought, you know what, I mean, there's probably better people out there, but, I think I've got enough to have a say. So I did. And as Laurie sort of alluded to earlier, I try and motivate, I try and post stupid memes and stupid videos, and I try and share people's success stories. Within weeks, I had thousands of followers. I'm now not far off 1,300. That's right, isn't it? 1,300 is one that. No, 13,000 is what I'm on. Yes. That's just scared me again. 13,000. Yes, and I, as you've just seen, it literally blows me away every time. And And look, without it, I'd never have got this opportunity to speak to you lot. Although if I'm currently boring you to high heaven, then that might have been a good thing. But yeah, that's where I sort of I'm very grateful for all the opportunities it's brung to me. So yes, that's my boring story. I'm going to hand over to Laurie in case there's some people jump in the chat again.
We've got a very polite audience because there's another question about please. So Rebecca's asked, she's encountered 3 versions of please. So
Yes.
she's seen Ysgwelwch yn dda, Ysgweli di'n dda,
Yeah.
Ysgwelwch yn dda. I think that's to do with ti a chi. I think that's formal, informal, depends on who you're speaking with.
Most definitely. Well, see, Laurie, we had a chat a couple of days ago, and I told you you should take over from me. And hey, that explanation was put better than any way I'd have put it. It is indeed, yeah. I mean, Ysgwelwch yn dda is probably the one you'll hear that's quite formal. But yeah, this he thing, a bit like tu and vu and do and z and all things like that in all different languages, and tu and shiv in Irish and all those other languages that still have the singular or informal versus formal and plural version of you. That one's yeah, if you're sort of speaking to a mate, Squelly Dean there, you'll hear a little bit as well. But dare I say it, with mates now, it is the please that's overtaking it. So I don't think Squelly Dean there is dying a death, but it's still there and it's still heard. But I think in the hustle and bustle of language, I think if someone said Squelly Dean there, I don't think you'd probably even pick up on it, to be honest. But yeah, there we go.
Dylan's asked a really good question. Do you believe your audience would differ on other social channels? So I assume if you were using something other than Twitter, have you explored that yet as well?
That's a boss question. My immediate thought when you just read that one out, Laurie, was yes, it probably would. I think people gravitate to different social media sites. I did branch out to TikTok recently, which was the worst thing a teacher could do. Yeah, and I've definitely noticed a different audience there, and sort of how they interact and stuff like that. I always found that Twitter I like the way the sort of threads happen, and I think that sort of lends itself to these short, sharp, snappy pieces of information. Whereas TikTok, I post and then I turn the app off. I don't look at any comments and things like that, and I don't follow anybody and things like that. So yeah, I think that's a great question. I think it probably would. I think I've been tempted to start an Instagram account. They seem to do pretty well, but I've got one of my own, and I don't want this idea of being 2 separate things. So I haven't really gone down that road yet. But yeah, I've never looked into that really, about the sort of psychology of who choose what and who'd follow what, but it's a great question. That'll probably keep me up tonight. I think was that Dylan, was it? Yeah. That's
Dylan
your fault if I don't sleep.
He works in our social media team.
Oh, does that sounds like a social media person's question. Actually, so would he be responsible for the Twitter account then?
Perhaps.
I did have a quick sneak peek this morning, and I saw that every single morning there's a Borida picture and then a bilingual message and then a North Star in the evening. I just thought, you absolute heroes. So kudos to the admin on that one. So that just put a big smile on my face. So yeah, that's really cool of you. So fair play. Yeah.
Awesome. You've got a couple more followers gained, so that's really good. I've done my bit, I've plugged it. Joe has come back with another language question. So why do some sentences start with me, am I, and sometimes not? So what's the difference? So he's put an example in. So aeth megan i'r clwb newydd.
Yeah.
Mi aeth megan i'r clwb newydd.
The hilarious thing about me, and also there for you Southerners as well, is they actually don't mean anything. They're just sort of positive sentence particles for the grammar geeks amongst you. They are not necessary. They are just very. I think what it is in literary Welsh, there are particles, little words we put before stuff that denote what you're about to say. So in sort of very literary Welsh, you'd put an a before a question. So if you're going to say wyt ti'n iawn, are you all right? What we should be saying is a wyt ti'n iawn. Nobody ever does it these days. There'd be a ni before a negative statement. So it's actually where you get the I don't know, doiti ddim yn, you don't or you are not. It actually came from nid oiti. So the d in that then became the doiti ddim. So for all these other, also oni or onid for the negative question. But there was never one for the positive. So what people started to do colloquially in the north was people would just shove a me at the start of it. And then in the south, they would shove a ver at the start of it. Now, the mad thing about this is both of them cause a soft mutation, which actually makes it more difficult. So instead of saying kesi for I got or I had, when you put in a me or a ver before it, you need to remember to put the mutation as well. So mi gesi or mi or vegesi. So we're actually making it more difficult for ourselves in a way. They don't mean anything. You are welcome to use them or not. I've tended to use me a little bit, but mostly I don't use any of them. I just say, yeah, AC shopper, I went shopping. But in certain circumstances, you might get a me AC shopper now and again. But yeah, that's a boss question, that one. I like that.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it is. Should we do one more before I bore you even more?
Yeah, they're pouring in at the moment. So,
Oh gosh.
so what's your views of speaking Welsh in a working environment around people who mainly just speak English? So, that kind of perhaps office environment where you've got maybe mixed ability, or you've got people who do speak, who don't speak, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the worst way to answer it, but I think it depends on the audience and who's there. You know, most people are not bothered when they hear other. I love hearing different languages all the time. I think it's beautiful, and you know, that's great. I think you have got to be a little bit sensitive to other people, but in the same way, don't denounce your ability to speak your native language or a language you've learned either. I think I'm going to sound awful here, but I think sometimes when people bemoan others speaking a language around them, I think it can, in some occasions, in some instances, and probably in very few, but I think it can derive from a sort of insecurity about sort of. I can promise you this, right? I have got far better things to talk about than your good self. When I'm talking to somebody in Welsh or another language that I pretend I can comprehend. Yeah, I understand. I get it. You know, it can feel a bit like, are they talking about me? Probably not.
I concur, because I used to work in South Gloucestershire, but my colleague who was in the office with me was from North Wales. So the minute we saw each other, we would go, you know, and we'd have a massive catch up. And then when someone walked past, they'd be like, they took amusement and they liked it. They just thought, they kind of thought, oh, you've brought that out of Arian, because Arian would be speaking English most of the time until I popped up. So they I like to think they enjoyed it.
I would be honest, I'd say that about 95 if not more % of people are just sort of happy to hear it. I literally went to the health visitor this morning. He's my little boy is, what is he now, 23 months? No, it can't be that. Is he 27 months now? It must be. And so that was today. And obviously we said we speak English to him, things like that. And the health visitor herself, not a Welsh speaker, was like, oh, that's so lovely, and things like that. And she was trying to use a couple of words that she had and stuff. And I think most of the time you're going to get people who are like, that's really cool, and it's powerful because it can encourage them to be part of it as well. So yeah, it's a hard one to cover, and one we could perhaps talk for hours on end about. But yeah, I think that one's above me, I reckon.
We've got a few more questions, but continue, and then
I'll do a bit more, and then I'll
yeah.
I'll
explain
why Duolingo has an obsession with parsnips. Yes. So there we are. That was my boring story, and I'm essentially going to finish. It'll be about a 10-minute finish. I won't go out, gracefully. But I have a task for you, a challenge, if you will, and then that's me done, and then I'm off. Okay. So like I said, it is going to be the most long-winded task I've ever set, and I reckon it needs a backstory. So TFW, you, as I've already alluded to with your Twitter, you do amazing work with the Welsh language, and whatever your part is as an individual in that, I hope you take some credit from that, that your employers do such wonderful things, and for the very least you have my thanks. It just put a smile on my face. Now, over the years, since acquiring Welsh to the level I have, I've learned so much more than the language. I've seen what it means to people. How they hold fast to a way of communicating um, the, in a language of people that forged their locality, a language that connects everyone to people who are no longer with us. It connects them to those people who called this place their home, not just in the last generation, but centuries ago, even millennia. It connects them to people who laughed in Welsh, who cried in Welsh, told stories, raised children, built homes, dreamt, imagined, fell in love. It connects them to that. And I hope that goes some way in telling you what it means to people. There's probably bilingual people here now who for whom that means so much as well. And don't get me wrong, if you're an English speaker, what the English language means to you, don't ever misunderstand that, and don't ever think that the English language hasn't got. It's one of the most versatile, along with probably Arabic. It's probably one of the most versatile languages on the planet. It's amazing, and no one's ever trying to say that Wales shouldn't have English. We've got it. We should enjoy that and be proud of that. But there is another language here that means a lot to people. So to use any Welsh is to show these people, past, present, and future, that they have a place in this fast-paced and ever-evolving world. I'm starting to see that a lot more, that this is a very fast-paced world. At 34, I'm realizing, oh gosh, slow down. And aside from the sort of romantic view of it, you may well just help someone who might ask you a question in this way. I'm going to apologize to Lowry being a Northwesterner for this. Maybe someone who comes up to you says, is this the right train for me, please? Yeah, am I in the right place? If you hear that, they probably speak Welsh. So do them a favour, because you're helping them out. It's a very monotone. So am I doing the right thing? That's how Lowry speaks in English. If you haven't heard it, I promise. But look, when she's going to kick me off this call in a minute. I wouldn't blame her for it. I'll be over on Twitter to carry on bullying her if she kicks me off. All right. Look, when I think of transport in Wales, my mind immediately takes me to a phrase that's used in the far southeast of our lovely nation. Any takers what I'm alluding to there? I'll give you a clue. It's mostly said in taxis. Lowry, keep an eye on the chat. Someone's going to get it. When I think of transport, moving around in Wales, I think of what two-word phrase that you southeasterners say, and I don't know why. Anyone got it? You've all said. I'm telling you now. If there's someone, there you go, Ross. There you go. Cheers, drive.
It's coming in thick now. Yeah,
I imagine that might be the case. You can. I know where you're all from when you answer this one. Cheers, drive. And I just, for me, it's stayed with me because, to be fair to the residents of our capital city and the surrounding areas, it's far better than me up here in the northeast saying Tala. It's unique, it's local, and it's home, and I loved it, and it's always stuck with me. And it reminds me that you guys who deal in transport are in a position of actually incredible power. And allow me to explain, because I've come into contact in my 15 years or so teaching with thousands of students. Probably, if I was to take a guess, I've probably interacted and touched the lives, I hope, of probably around 2,000 young people. Now, you guys probably deal with that amount of people in a day altogether. About people who use different services you have, people who interact on Twitter. You interact with that many people, I don't know, a day, a week. I've done that. It's taken me 12, 15 years to do that. So use what you have. Be another reason for people to think, I might give that a go. So you ready for your challenge? Barod am y sialens. Barod am y her. Yeah, barod am y sialens. My challenge comes in the form of a statement, and it's one I've stuck by for many, many years. It's use your manners. Don't say thank you. And I'm advocating that if you do nothing else with this beautiful language, say diolch. Especially if you're sort of customer facing, say diolch. Now, here are your potential responses if you were to say diolch to someone. You'll receive either thanks or thank you, or cheers drive, depending on your geographical location. you might get a diolch in return. That's a fuzzy feeling if ever you've got one, I promise you. You might get someone say, oh, you speak Welsh, or I didn't know you spoke Welsh, or oh, that's cool. That's fuzzy feeling too. You might also even get, oh, chi'n siarad Cymraeg at 100 mile an hour. Those are sort of the 4 things you're going to get, really. So what I thought I'd do is I break down each of those 4 into sort of how that can lead to something positive. So if it's a thanks you receive, no harm done. You've made one more person today hear some Welsh. You did that. You made somebody hear a word of Welsh in a world where they may not have. That's really cool. If they say diolch, you've made someone use their Welsh today. That's even better. Better as a word. You may have got them to say a word in a language they speak that they might not have done in quite some time. Once again, you did that. Now, if you do speak a bit of Welsh, use it. There is absolutely zero chance that anyone's going to bemoan a mismutation, the odd English word in what you say. Would you bemoan them if they did and they were speaking Welsh to you? Of course you wouldn't. So why would someone do that to you? Of course they wouldn't. It's only positivity. If you're not fluent in Welsh yet, the scariest eventuality for you would be that Welsh gets fired back at you at 100 miles an hour and you're left a little red-faced. I've been there. It sticks with you. You can feel yourself going red. It's scary. Okay, but why should you be? You shouldn't. What you've done is something wonderful. I was speaking to Laurie about it was about 2 days ago, wasn't it? And you told me a story about Japanese.
Oh yeah.
Would you mind just sharing that one quickly?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I learnt 2 things in Japanese. It's a lot less impressive than it sounds, I promise you. But I learned how to say thank you, and there are about 5, 6, 7 different ways of saying thank you that, by the end you're bowing to the ground going thank you, thank you, thank you. It's like arigato, arigato gozaimasu, etc., etc. But then I learned to say nice to meet you, or so I thought. So I met someone for the first time and I said, hajime mishite, and they looked at me blank. And I went, and I didn't know what to say. I just kind of went, and I started to go red, as you described.
Yes.
And then his friend nudged him and went, she said pleased to meet you. And he kind of went, oh, and I was horrified because I thought, I don't know what I've said. But his friend understood, so I thought there's some comprehension there.
Of course there is.
And then I was a bit kind of like, oh, I won't say it again. But actually, eventually what I did was I got someone to write it down phonetically for me. And I always had it on my desk. And it was the one bit I thought I'm going to master and get it right. So it's the same with the thank you.
Yeah.
But as I wrote in the chat, one of the easiest ways I found to pick up on words and hearing them is sitting somewhere in public where people use them constantly. And in Japan, I hate to say it, it was Starbucks, because every customer, they were like, there was about 4 of them who'd say as a chorus, arigato gozaimasu, constantly.
Right.
And it stuck. And I thought, I know how to say that now. So, but yeah, I've not really had the time to practice, or but practice is a big part of it, and
100%.
Being comfortable. Definitely.
Well, it was that story that I promise I only giggled at you inside my head when you said it to me, Laurie. I visited.
I did die a bit. I did.
I can imagine you might. I visited a place called Braes in its native language, Brittany as we know it here, or Llydaw in Welsh. I visited there quite some time ago now, and I'd been learning a little bit of Breton. I thought it'd be nice to use it, and I went up to this person and I said, "Kenavo," and they looked at me soft, and they sort of, with this face of sort of comprehension mixed with a bit of, "That's nice of you to try," mixed with a bit of, "You're an idiot." And it wasn't until later that I realized that demat is hello, Kenavo is goodbye. So it made me laugh. I laughed at myself. Who have I hurt? Nobody. It was just hilarious. And it was one of the most powerful things. It didn't even happen to me in Welsh. So what I'm saying is, if somebody does fire back Cymraeg at you at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and all you've got is diolch, tell them why you said diolch. In English. We're pretty good at English as well. Tell them why. Tell them you've been trying to raise the profile. Tell them you've been trying to raise the visibility and the normality of it. tell them you've been working on Duolingo or whatever you've been doing, or you've met this random guy who's off Twitter who came to talk to me over a lunchtime at one point. Tell them why you're doing it. They'll love it. The result of any of these things is that Welsh speakers will feel valued. And non-Welsh speakers might just go home and try some Welsh. They might tell their children how important it is to try in school. They might eventually send their children to a Welsh-speaking school. Clearly, there are very few negatives. Although the positive possibilities are endless, you might only change the fortunes of 1 in perhaps 500 people. So what? 1 in 500 people might go home and download Duolingo because of you. You could do that. It's all about that sort of customer facing, if you have that ability. And even if it's not, if you send in an email, just whack a diolch, thanks at the end. You know, I don't know, anything. But you could change something for someone. You have that power in one word. It's like when you're in a supermarket, right? And someone in front of you is walking in front, and something falls out of their trolley and they don't know. And then you just pick it up, put it back in the trolley, and they move on and you move on, and they don't know you've done it. They don't even know it fell out the trolley. But you know, you're that little silent hero. And, you know, they haven't paid for it yet, so who cares? But doing things like that, you know, you are doing that by saying diolch. Can I ask very quickly, if anyone's brave enough to jump in, is there anyone here who speaks a different language, an additional language to English? I'm not accepting Welsh.
Jen, you've got your hand up if you're happy to come in.
Hello,
I'm well.
yes.
Anyone?
Oh, go on. Yes. What have you got?
I've got French and Spanish.
Okay, so were I to say merci or gracias to you, you'd be happy with that? That's okay, yeah?
Yeah.
Cool beans. Anybody else?
Come straight in, guys. That's absolutely
Yeah.
fine. I see another hand. Don't know
You're
if I was
welcome to write the
imagining things.
language in the chat if you
Yeah,
have another
yeah.
one or something. Please do, and Laurie will jump in for me.
And if there's Japanese speakers and you've heard me, please don't.
Look out. Any more different languages?
Give it a second.
Or Chinese.
Oh, did I
Say
hear
that one again?
Chinese?
Chinese. All I know.
Mandarin Chinese.
Mandarin.
Mandarin
Would She work for you?
Yeah, definitely.
I'll take that. Any more?
Okay.
You just imagine that I've got this massive list of all thank you in different languages here. I haven't. Very loose German. Dankeschön. Yeah, das ist gut. Yeah. Dankeschön. Cool. Anything else? Take a couple more. Please don't go to sort of the sub-Asian continent. I know about 3 ways of saying thank you in sort of in Indian-based languages, and I'm too scared to use them. So yeah. Any more? Look, I think it was Deborah. BSL. Well, I can do that. That's all I have. But I actually used that yesterday when I got my new haircut. So there was somebody who was using BSL, and so I tried one of those. It was quite nice to interact with him too. Yeah, look. Beer ordering.
Yeah.
I saw that one pop up. Yeah.
Cheers is another good one.
Most
Cheers,
definitely.
Iechyd da. Yeah.
Iechyd da, indeed. But basic Irish, Goramahagut. That one be okay for the Irish speaker. Goramila Mahagut, if you so wish. Anybody else? Any more? Hak, if you're a Scandinavian speaker. Obrigado for any Portuguese. I've got my Dundoban, Nandri, Shukran or Shukriya. Teşekkür ederim for any Turkish speakers. Yes, I am flexing right now. Kealeboa, if anybody speaks any Southern African languages. I do it because, as some people actually alluded to in the chat, the ones that popped up, I just think it. Well, let me ask you, those of you who put your hand up with Irish and Chinese and Mandarin and things like that, you don't have to answer out loud. How did it feel when I said that? How did it feel? How do you?
Nice iawn.
Nice iawn. I imagine it might have, yeah, and I hope it does. That's the feeling you can give to people by saying diolch. especially in a place you might not have expected to hear it. I don't know if anyone here was expecting me to chuck a bit of Irish in there and other languages. I don't think maybe not. And I hope that's put a smile on your face. And every time I hear someone say Diolch, it puts a smile on mine. And you could do that. That's what you do for Welsh speakers and learners by just giving it a try. So finally, if I've managed to inspire you in some way to start smashing Welsh, be proud of what you know. Bilingualism isn't a binary ultimatum. It's not an on-off switch, whether you do or you don't. If you can say something, you are bilingual in that language. See it more as a spectrum. Be proud of what you know and blooming use it. And if that is only Diolch, that is brilliant. I'm happy with that. Padraig, yes, indeed. I'll do a bit more Irish later if you like. Tommy Fosig Folum. That's still going on. Yes, still I agree completely. So look, what else can you do if I've inspired you in some way? Duolingo. I actually helped make the course, but I didn't put the parsnips in there, so don't shout at me. Duolingo is incredible. Stick with it, really. Sláinte. If you Duolingo you can get to a point where you think, I can't do this anymore. I've hit that with French many times. You end up making far more mistakes, but I promise you, those mistakes make you learn faster. They really do. And I was doing French recently, and there was this phrase I kept getting wrong. I kept getting this, how to use the infinitive or a conjugated verb. I was doing it wrong all the time. And then once I tried it differently. Maybe it's because of this, I asked myself, and I did it, and it was right. And I thought, that's it. And then I did another question, and I applied that, and it worked. And I thought, wow. And I got so much more out of that than picking up a book going, this is how it's done. I got so much more, it's stuck in my head so much more. So stick with it, I promise. Search your app store for Welsh. Just literally put Cymraeg into your app store and just download it. Just have a go, just play around. I like Google Translate. I like putting stuff in English. And just seeing what it comes out in Welsh or the language I'm learning, and you'll be surprised how much you pick up. For those of you thinking about watching things or listening to things in Welsh, take a pinch of salt. For me, this is third person learning. It's the most difficult way of learning a language. It's wonderful, but it's difficult. You're not part of the conversation. You don't know the people having a conversation. They may well be speaking, you may have joined halfway through. They might be speaking about something you don't know a great deal about. They could be speaking too fast. They could be using different dialects. Apgated dinner is wonderful, actually, Eleanor. Yeah. They might be using different dialects. It's very, very difficult. It's wonderful, but don't ever come away from it after watching 10 minutes of S4C going, I can't do this. You can. You've just tried to go into a really, really difficult situation. You're wonderful for doing
totally
it, but
agree.
Yeah, it's
Music
exactly.
is
Handshakes,
better.
Yeah.
Songs are better.
Songs are probably better. You can
listen,
re-listen.
Yeah,
most definitely. And Google the lyrics as well. That's a really
Yeah.
good way of doing it. But I'm not saying it's a bad thing to do. Just take it with a pinch of salt and know that it's not easy. I still watch S4C and I go, all right, I didn't get that. I'm gonna have to rewind or something here. I still get that. And as Laurie alluded to before, there is a podcast of mine which I do speak in English, but there are bits in Welsh, of course. It's called Doctoriaeth Cymraeg, Welsh Doctors, because even though I'm not a doctor in any capacity, there is my co-pilot on the podcast is a Dr. Sarah Wheeler, and she is actually a doctor. She has a PhD, so we called it the Doctoriaeth Cymraeg, if you want to have a look for that one. I also have some books out, which I'm not telling anybody to buy by any stretch of imagination, but people have told me that they've helped people who have learned and things. This is one of my faves. I love this one, right? It's not going to focus, is it? Cracking Welsh questions because of the double entendre. So we are cracking Welsh questions, we're breaking them down, but they're also cracking. Well, Laurie laughed, so I'll take that. That's 1 out of 56 of you, so I'll take that.
When it was World Book Day, when you could get a free book for your child, I got my son a Welsh joke book, and that's been really good.
They're brilliant. Because they're quite short, sharp snippets as well. They're really good for learners. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. For those who are nervous about mutations, what would you say around that, Stephen?
Don't
especially
worry one bit.
Yeah. The
No,
nasal
man, don't
ones.
worry. Yeah, the nasal ones. Yeah. Look, they were something that I probably went the wrong way of learning. I sort of sat down and learned them massively, and then I realised that, oh God, I'd say something in Welsh and I'd go, oh, I should have mutated there. And then I looked at the face of the person to whom I was speaking, and they didn't care. They didn't care. They just got on, and then they made their own mistakes. Mutations are beautiful. They're wonderful. And if you want to learn them, do it, because they're awesome. It's really cool. It's like this whole linguistic feature that so many other languages don't. We do have it in English, by the way. What's more than one shelf? What's more than one elf? Knife,
Shelves,
wife.
Knives. Yeah.
There's a foot to a but there. You also have S mutating into a Z in American English. Well, you do say it in, so organize, we pronounce it as a Z, but we write it as an S. That's a mutation. So they happen all over the place. Yes, Welsh is very heavy on the mutations, and that's the kind of thing that scares people off it. But oh gosh, no, don't worry about those. You'll pick them up as you go along if you really want to, and if you don't want to, don't
It's not
worry
the end
about
of
it.
the world.
No, is it ever? No, not
I
at
still
all.
have a guide to this day, and I
Yes,
I
brilliant.
still can't always hear it, honestly. So yeah, it's not.
Would you
It's
class
not.
yourself as not a Welsh speaker, Laurie?
I would class myself as a Welsh speaker.
Yeah,
So
rightly
there we
so.
go. Yeah.
End of.
Can I mutate to save my life? Probably not. So yeah.
Mutilations, I call them, rather than mutations.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably a more apt word, I think, probably.
I don't think I like rules. I think that's where I come from.
Well, my surname's Rule, so I'm taking that personally.
I'm just seeing if there's any other question.
Please, I'm on the Q&A bit now. My bit's done.
If I've missed anyone, please let me know. I'm just having a look back up. When learning French, my favourite thing to learn was idioms.
Yeah.
What is your favourite Welsh idiom? Oh, that's a good question.
Oh, don't do that. Do you know what? Because as I'm a learner, I don't come across idioms very much, as in to use. I hear them and I can sort of, oh gosh, I don't know. I like it when people say de val donk.
That's the good one. Yeah.
It's basically means absolutely not. It's a bit like saying, well, every cloud. And you're thinking, every cloud what? And then, you expect people to know that has a silver lining after it. De val donk actually comes from de val donk a dir y garreg. So gentle tapping is basically de val donk. But the full thing is gentle tapping breaks the stone. And I think it's just a phrase about perseverance and doing the little things. As I saw in the chat a little bit, some people saying about doing the little things. Those sort of things are really important. So de val donk is a very beautiful one for me, and I definitely, that would probably be up there for my Welsh idioms. Yeah.
Got me thinking about favourite Welsh words as well. So
Go on, what you got?
A friend of mine likes smuddio, which is ironing. I don't enjoy ironing, but she remembers the word smuddio because it's smoothing
something. It's stolen straight from English. Yeah.
Yeah. Duolingo is great, and I've been learning Welsh on it for over a year, but still rubbish at actually speaking to my neighbours. What else do you think is good to complement Duolingo?
The temptation to say my books would be incredible. I'm not going to, but you can search Stephen Owen Rule in Amazon if you want. Yes. Anyway, I found this app recently called Polygloss, and they got in touch with me. They actually sent me a thank you note as well recently, which I still yet to open. I know it's them because it says Polygloss on the back. That's a cool app where you're given a picture and you get to write anything you want in your target language, and then a randomer will come back and respond to it. And it's such a non-threatening environment to use what you know. So I found that one. If you're a Duolingoer, that's also a word. I'd have a go at that. Polygloss, totally free. Get involved. You might even get linked up with me if I'm when I get on it a little bit, and that'll be a laugh. But honestly, it's no pressure, and if you're worried about it, just skip and pick another picture to write about. That would be but there are, use it on social media. The big jump will be speaking to people, and the moment you do it, you'll never look back. But it's getting to that moment. It's very, very scary. In fact, I went through about a 6-month period where people would speak to me in Welsh. I'd understand them perfectly, and I'd just respond in English. And I got to a point after about the 5th or 6th month, and I just thought, hold on a minute. I could have said everything there in Welsh. So I just tried, and you just get quicker and quicker and quicker all the time. And it's scary as hell, and I've messed up a few times. Not quite a Japanese mess up, I don't think, but I've messed up many a times. Yeah, that was a stab at Lowry. Yeah, I've messed up many a time, and you learn from it. You have a laugh from it. So yeah, that'd be my advice on that one. Try polygloss. It's cool.
Polygloss. Thank
Not
you.
sponsored.
Great. Not sponsored. I'll send you a copy of the comments because everyone's being absolutely bendigedig.
Yeah, I've just managed to open it now. Yeah.
Yeah. Jen says, mae gen i grŵp ar Facebook efo ffrindiau o gwmpas y byd sy'n chwarae ukulele a canu. Dwi'n canu yn Gymraeg.
Oh, bendigedig. Na, ma hwnna'n cool iawn, yeah. So mae'n a grŵp ar Facebook efo ffrindiau a gwmpas y byd around the world sy'n chwarae ukulele, actually. I like the spelling of that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's two accepted ways of spelling it. A canu a ti'n canu yn Gymraeg. So, ar y grŵp yma, Jen, ydy o'n grŵp I bobl sy'n siarad Cymraeg, neu ydy o'n grŵp?
Yn grŵp o gwmpas y byd sy'n siarad Saesneg.
Right, ond ti'n canu yn Gymraeg ar y grŵp yma?
Yeah.
So sut mae pobl yn teimlo, sut mae pobl yn teimlo am clywed, about hearing, am clywed y Gymraeg pan ti'n canu?
Mae'n pobl hoffi canu iawn.
Oh, dwi'n siŵr. Dwi'n siŵr bod pobl yn hoffi clywed Cymraeg, ond mae lot o bobl rownd y byd yn clywed a hearing mwy a mwy o Gymraeg achos, my beloved Wrexham FC and things like that, and the stuff the documentary's doing. Ond mae Cymraeg yn lot fwy mainstream rwan. Oh, I just chucked an English word in. Maybe I'm not fluent in Welsh anymore. Lol. But yeah, that's really cool. That's a dwi'n chwarae dipyn bach o ukulele hefyd. I've lost it right now. There it is in the corner. I'm not going to play it for you now, thankfully. Thankfully, we've only got 7 minutes left, so I can't squeeze it in. But Diolch, Jen, that's really cool.
Loads of idioms coming through.
Oh gosh.
Cerad and Lingdi Long.
Lingdi Long, I love that.
Bwrw Henrag Gyda Finn, the equivalent of
raining old
cats
ladies
and dogs.
And sticks. Yes. Yeah. Raining old ladies and sticks. I mean, people ask me like, that's really silly, isn't it? Raining old ladies and sticks. And I go, yes, because I can imagine cats and dogs falling from the flipping sky. That's usually my comeback to that one. Yeah, domesticated animals falling from the sky. That's cool.
Has lunch and learn yet? Oh goodness me!
Hey, I'll take that. That's all right.
Fantastic. Any other questions? Anything else? Any comments? Fiddle in a tour. Oh, so to give up, fiddle in a tour.
Fiddle in a tour, yeah. I believe I know where that comes from. I think it's something about you're trying to build a roof and you've run out of materials. So the last thing you do is this fiddle, which is probably your only form of entertainment in those days. And you put the fiddle in the roof. It means like, that's it. I've got nothing left, sort of thing. I believe that's what it is. I may well be totally wrong there. Mrs. Wishy Washy, one of my favourite songs that my son loves at the moment. Yep, that's a pretty good one. Love that one.
A lot of people have approached me saying they're looking to learn Welsh because their children are starting to learn Welsh as well.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the position you're in as well, isn't it? If you've got a youngster.
Well, I'm seeing people grow up in Welsh now for the first time because obviously I didn't. So I'm seeing that firsthand now, and it's absolutely incredible. And I'm trying to speak a little bit of Irish with him as well. So I'm seeing that side of it to try and speak another language. And I'm getting quite frustrated with my Irish because my Irish isn't good enough just yet. I still use it, don't get me wrong, but it isn't good enough just yet. I'm seeing I imagine how people would feel where they want to speak Welsh to the child and there's just sort of they can't quite grasp the things they want to say. So I'm just using what I can. I actually made a video on YouTube not long ago about little phrases that I found myself using a lot more with my son, things I would never taught in school. So have a look for Dr. Cymraeg on YouTube if that interests you. Gaffer Wen. I'm haunted by that one as well. Yeah.
My son laughs at me when I say careful because he goes careful, which is horse, and he goes ha ha ha, and we just
brilliant.
But he loves you know, again, he picks his favourite words, which is fantastic. I'm just checking the chat because I know we've
Yeah,
only got
the
a couple more
FAW,
minutes.
yes, the
Yeah,
FAW doing really well, just as good as
very
you
well.
guys are as well. Actually, it's amazing. So that's really cool.
I went to see Mamma Mia on the weekend. I was looking for my tickets and my email, but instead came across my Welsh GCSE practice, which said, "Dydw i ddim yn hoffi Mamma Mia." 15-year-old me was a different person. But finding the email inspired me to pick up Welsh again. So who knew Mamma Mia could lead you to learning Welsh?
There you go. Hey, who'd have thought a Swedish group would have made you learn Welsh? Get on. That's brilliant. That's amazing.
O'n i wastad yn andor caneuon Dafydd Iwan.
Dalen, still
little
do,
fact,
yeah.
if you didn't know, he opened Club y Bont in Pontypridd and it turns 40 this September. Oh, wow.
Well, I did
That's
not
an
know
excuse
that.
to go there, definitely.
Most definitely. If I was a bit close to Pontypridd, I'd certainly be there. But, I did not know that. I can imagine that Emily Harve will be there. I hope she will. I assume she will.
I think we need to arrange a social there, definitely. I just want to...
Oh, sorry, I've just seen somebody's going to start up a little chatting thing, which would be amazing.
Yeah.
You absolute heroes. But yeah, I take nothing away from all of this. And you guys just being here means a lot to me. And yeah, so in the instance of the challenge that has been set for you, unless Laurie has anything else to say, I will end with a massive thanks very much for listening. And you can take the irony out of that if you want, but yeah, give it a go. It's just been lovely to talk to you guys, and hey, I would most certainly take up the offer of doing this again. I've had a really good laugh, and it's I've actually timed it to perfection, so we'll take that.
I think we would really welcome you back anytime. Maybe face to face. That would be great if you fancy.
That'd be cool, eh? I'd have a bit of that, yeah.
And
as long as I get a free brew out of it, yeah.
Oh yeah, we can manage that.
Well, that's all right. I'll take that.
We can manage that. And diolch yn fawr iawn.
Diolch.
O'n i gyd yn Trafnidiaeth Cymru. Thank you so much, and thanks for everyone for the comments, the questions. It's been anhygoel. Diolch yn fawr iawn, Bob.
Anhygoel indeed.
Diolch, Stephen.
Diolch, guys.
Diolch.
Ta-ra.
Ciao.